Hey guys, welcome back to Team Death Slinger. My name is Peter, and today we're going to look at Taomon Loop. How does it work? How's it doing? Should it be banned? And what does the new Sakuyamon X support mean for Taomon Loop? So without further ado, let's get right into it. So what is Taomon Loop? So the whole loop stems from this new Taomon Ace that we are getting in BT19. What it does is on play and when digivolving, if it's your turn, you use a single color option with play cost 5 or less from your hand, and then the opponent's turn effect kind of doesn't matter. So you're going to Evo into this on a stack, or you're going to hard play it for 5 if you have to. If you can do that while keeping turn. But this card's effect kind of lets you do some silly things. So you are going to Evo, we'll say you Evo into the Taomon Ace. Let's say you use a training, so you did it for 1. So you use 1 memory, you go into Taomon Ace, and then you use a Digivolution plugin S. Now this is going to let you Evo one of your Digimon that can Evo for a cost of 3 or less without paying the cost and draw a card. So you're going to use this option, it goes to trash, and what you're going to Evo into is the Kazuhamon. Now if you don't know what this Kazuhamon does, is when Digivolving it lets you use an option card with cost 5 or less, and then if you use an option card this way, it's going to let you play out either a Taomon or a level 4 or lower from your sources. So you're going to use an option, ideally in this position, you're going to use an option that builds you resources, something like a training, a scramble, a memory boost, something of that sort, or you're going to use something that offers some control for your board. So you're going to use something like a plugin that gives DP reduction, or something along those lines. And then you're going to play out the Taomon Ace from underneath. Now the Taomon Ace is going to trigger again, and we're going to use another plugin S. You can see where this is going. You're going to draw a card, you're going to do your thing, you're going to play Kazuhamon again, you're going to get your value, or you're going to control the board some more. You're going to play out this Taomon, you're going to use a plugin S, you're going to go into Kazuhamon, you're going to get your value, you're going to play out the Taomon, you're going to plug in S, and then we go into another Kazuhamon, and then you're going to get your value to control whatever you're going to do. This Taomon comes out, and this is your kind of generic board state for, we're just going to clump these over here, the Taomon Loop. So now, from here you have a couple of options. Most frequently, you're probably going to go into something like Sakuyamon. Sakuyamon from BT19 says when digivolving, you're going to draw 2, then use a single color option card with play cost 5 or less, without playing the cost. And then if you use an option this way, you're going to make a token with 6,000 DP and blocker. So this is going to give you another free option. Now, what you probably want to do in this position is you're going to play a Kaiser Nail, which is going to play out this Taomon again, which gives you access to another option. But more importantly is that it gets the Taomon Ace out from underneath your Sakuyamon, and then you can end your play by going into Ruin mode on any one of these stacks. But this is ideally going to lock out your opponent from doing things. So you have probably broken their board with all of the DP reduction effects that you can be triggering on these Kazuhamons if you're not building value, and then you're going into the Ruin mode to stop the promote play, and that's kind of your whole loop. So the question is now, what does Sakuyamon X offer for this loop? And we'll take a look at what that does in a second. But what I want to talk about is if this is healthy, should it exist in the game? And we actually have a pretty good example we can take a look at to compare this loop to, and kind of weigh if it's in line with Bandai's card philosophy or not. Now, in my opinion, something that is kind of similar to what Taomon Loop is doing is our classic example of EX5 Anubismon. And if we take a look at why Bandai restricted this card to 1, it says this card has high board retention and control due to its continuous play and removal effects, which greatly improves the consistency and speed of the deck when combined with several other existing cards. Now, you could argue that Taomon Loop does something similar. It has high board retention. I mean, it's playing about 5 bodies minimum, not counting tokens. And it does have control. With that Kazuhamon, you're going to be able to weave in your DP reduction options and break your opponent's board and then end off on a Ruin mode. The difference here, I think the big difference that you have to consider here is that Anubismon was a generic level 6 that went in just about every purple deck, and could turn it into an Anubismon deck. You had the ability to be playing out minimum 6 cost Digimon for free, pop a level 5, draw cards, and then that's not even considering when you actually want to pay memory to play a Digimon that costs more than 6, what you can do with that. And then they go on to say there are very few deck types that can handle this speed, and currently this card reduces the space for choosing other deck themes with similar board expansion effects, limiting the diversity of decks you can use. So does Taomon Loop overshadow other wide board strategies? Well, I don't know necessarily that there's that many other meta strategies that want to go wide, but I think you could argue that Taomon Loop is a little more restricted in what it has to do. Now, what do I mean by that? You need lots of pieces to make the Taomon Loop work. It is a combo, and as a result of that, you have to find your pieces or you're not going to combo off. You need a Taomon Ace. You have to have all 4 copies of your Kazuhamon. You have to have a Sakuyamon and a Ruin Mode. And then you need 4 copies of your plugins. You need whatever control plugins you're running. You need probably Kaiser Nail. And then, you have to find the pieces to actually set up, like your Rikas. And it could potentially be really easy to brick with a deck like that. Now, I don't think that means that the deck is not strong, because we can see in the JP meta that Taomon Loop does have tops. This is a deck that can do lots of really mean things, and if you get the combo, you're probably going to win. I mean, there's not a lot you can do when your opponent goes 5 or 6 deep and then locks you out of promoting on the next turn. They're going to swing out and they're going to win. So I think in its current state, not accounting for the Sakuyamon X, I would say that no, it probably doesn't need to be restricted, just because it has conditions that have to be fulfilled for it to combo off. And I think it's not going to do that every time. It doesn't quite have the consistency to do that. Now the question is, what does Sakuyamon X do for this deck? So now here we have Sakuyamon X Antibody. It costs 1 to Evo on Sakuyamon if it doesn't have X Antibody in its traits. And then 4 on a level 5. It says, when Digivolving, if Sakuyamon or X Antibody is in this Digimon's Digivolution card's play, when Yuka no Mitama Digimon token, it's got 9,000 DP and Rush, and then your turn, when any of your Digimon attack, you may use 1 single color option card with a play cost of 5 or less from your hand without paying the cost if you did one of your Digimon unsuspend. So what are we actually getting out of playing this in Taomon Loop? Well, we get an extra Rush token just by Digivolving, and that can potentially matter. That could be a good way to close out a game and get an extra check, but we do get a way to unsuspend every time we use an option card, and then when any Digimon attacks, we have the opportunity to use that option card and unsuspend. So if we are going 6 wide, I believe by the math, this just under doubles the amount of checks you get. I think it's like 11 instead of 12 or something like that. I guess if you count the token, it doubles the number of attacks you get. But that is really good. I know that the deck build is currently tight on space in the first place, so then it's a question of how does this fit in? Are you even going to see enough options to maximize what this does? But I think this potentially adds some inconsistency in a piece that you could see when you want options instead, or it's going to utterly break the deck and just make you hyper aggressive, lock out your opponent, and then guarantee your game on next turn when you evo your Sakuyamon into the Sakuya X and you just start swinging and using options and all that stuff. So what would get hit if something got hit in Taomon Loop? Probably Kazuhamon. I think if you put it at 1, the loop itself is probably harder to execute. I think with the existence of Taomon Ace, you still have a lot of value in this engine. I think it's really obvious that they want Sakuya X to be meta, and I think this deck probably will be meta. The amount of value you can get out of it is insane, and the amount of control you can throw down just by evoing up the line is also really insane. The new Renamon X grabs you an option back from trash too, so you can actually recycle your options, which is quite strong. I think if they hit Kazuhamon, the loop part of the deck is probably going to be dead. But I think this will still be a really well-positioned deck to be really strong. I think it just depends on what Bandai wants. It'd be interesting if they didn't hit it, I think, just to see which of the 2 versions of the deck we would see be really dominant. I don't know if it'd be worth going through the extra steps to do Taomon Loop if your Sakuyamon X just tribal deck is that dominant in the first place. So it remains to be seen. I think once we start seeing this card be played, it'll be very easy to make an opinion on if something needs to get hit or not. My prediction skills of a casual player who has no idea how anything works in competitive says just restrict Kazuhamon to 1. If Anubis can't go wide, then this probably shouldn't go wide either. And then it just gets support that goes on top of going wide that doubles the amount of attacks you get. Seems really, really good. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What are your opinions on the Taomon Loop, on this Sakuyamon X support? Do you think the loop needs to get hit? Do you think the loop being hit even impacts the Sakuyamon X tribal deck? Personally, I think it's totally fine. I think this deck would still be super playable even if we did hit the Kazuhamon. And I think even if we did hit it, they would still be run at 1 in the main deck just to get the extra Taomon and go wide that way. But again, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Think about becoming a channel member today. It really helps us out. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Thank you to our YouTube members for supporting this channel. It's people like Langlong and Big Z11 who make videos like this possible.